Hi besties, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I think you are gonna love this video. In today's video, if you're a grade 10, 11 or 12 learner, stay tuned for this series because this series is Get Back to School and Get Ready to Study. In today's video, we are covering all the term 1 topics that will be assessed in most subjects such as mathematics, physical sciences, languages, life orientation, and many more. So if you want to know what topics are going to be assessed and how can you tackle all of these and the assessments or the tests and activities you're going to have for the term and how much they weigh, you need to stick around. Get a pen, get a paper, because the info I'm going to tell you today is all over the world. It's readily available, but I'm compressing it into one video, so get a pen and a paper. All right, it's gonna be a very long video, so let's get right into it. You will see me, okay? So yeah, bestie, you're gonna see me doing side eye to my laptop because today's video requires the video, to give you accurate information. So let's start with languages. Home languages. So this is going to be all the home languages, whether it be Setswana, English, isiZulu, isiXhosa, Afrikaans, as long as it is tasked home language. These are the assessments you're gonna do. Disclaimer, this is for all the learners who are doing the CAPS and not IEB curriculum. You're going to have an oral presentation, so a listening comprehension. You're going to have creative writing twice. There's going to be an essay for 50 marks. Usually there's about 7 or 8 essay topics that are provided, 5 of them being written topics and then 2 or 3 being pictorial stimulus, meaning that it's a picture. So it is very important that for this, let's not get there yet. There's also going to be a transactional writing that could either be an obituary, a letter, and so forth and so forth. It's very important for you to check the exam guideline on the kinds of transactional writings that could be assessed. There's also going to be another oral activity. So there are 2 creative writing assessments, 2 oral assessments. There's going to be an unprepared and a listening comprehension. Those are like 15 marks each. The essay is 50 marks. Transactional writing is 25. I hope you guys are writing this down. And then your test, end of term test, is going to be 35 marks. And usually it's a comprehension and a little bit of cartoon or advert and then a question on language structures and conversions. So now how do you actually master this? Let's talk about the oral activities. Remember that it is important for you to understand that these 2 oral activities are going to count as your paper 4 in the end of the year. But we're going to talk about that later in the year. But it is important for you to do well because it counts towards your SBA as well as your year mark, your exam mark. Now, creative writing, the only way to do very well in creative writing is for you to practice. And if you do not practice, okay, bestie, we are starting things very light and easy. We're starting with home language. Whether your home language is isiZulu, Setswana, Afrikaans, English, it doesn't matter as long as it is home language. About 5 assessments for the term. Let's get into it. There's going to be 2 oral activities, 2 creative activities, creative writing activities. There's going to be 1 written test for home language. So the 2 oral activities is going to be a listening comprehension and an unprepared speech for the first term. So let's talk about these 2 first. But let me give you the whole outline, then we talk about that. There's going to be an essay writing and a transactional writing. And then there's going to be a test. The test is usually going to have language in context in the form of a comprehension, a summary maybe, or a cartoon, and language conversions and structures. So now let's get into the orals. Why do you need to do well here and how can you do well? Remember that in your orals, there's usually a rubric. The rubric assesses you on certain elements. Are you using flashcards? Are you using this? Are you using the language accordingly? The way you present, do you maintain eye contact with the other people intrigued by what you're talking about. That's what they will usually assess you on. And these rubrics are readily available on the internet. And also doing proper research and practicing, especially for unprepared speech. Some people do not have the natural gift of just talking, unprepared. So the most important thing is for you to practice with previous topics and try and present in 3 minutes. Always have an outline when you're doing an unprepared speech. Remember, usually, depending on your school, they give you like 3 to 5 minutes to prepare your topic. Prepare a skeleton the same way you do creative writing. Prepare. This is the introduction. You have a body. What are you going to talk about in the body? The effects of this, the effects of that, this. So it's very important you have that. Creative writing, paper 3. How to write your essay, creativity, and the use of language, especially in your transactional writing. Also know the structure. When it comes to transactional writing, that's your letters, your obituaries, and all of that. And there are structures or formats that you need to follow. So make sure that you know how to use that. Remember, when you write a friendly letter, it's not the same as an informal, well, not the same as a formal letter. Sorry, someone is distracting me outside. But remember that friendly letter is also known as an informal letter, right? So you need to know how to answer those. The exam guideline is available on the government's website, and it tells you exactly where you need to go. And it tells you what kind of transactional writings could be assessed. Remember, in the essay that you're going to write, it's 50 marks. I think I highlighted that. Transactional writing is 25. And then your test is usually 35. And then the oral presentations are both 15. So how much does that give us? 50 plus 30 from the orals, plus the 25, 105, it's 140. So the total mark for the term is 140, and the way in which the marks for the term are calculated is everything you got divided by 140. So do what you need to and estimate how much you need to get in order for you to get a certain mark. Okay. Also remember that your orals are going to count towards your end of year exam mark as paper 4, but we're going to talk about that later in the year. Let us move on and get on to first additional languages. This could either be English, isiZulu, depending on the school that you go to, but as long as it is a first additional language, these are the assessments you're going to do. There's only 4 assessments in first additional. And there is 2 writing tasks, 1 oral and 1 test. Let's talk about it. The first task is going to be a listening comprehension out of 10 marks. This will test your ability to listen and respond to prompts after listening to the story multiple times. So it's very important for you to work on your listening skill and also listening with meaning and understanding. The second and third task is an essay writing, as well as a long transactional writing. Remember, when it comes to first additional language, we have long and short transactional writing. Long transactional is your reviews for books, formal letters of complaint to the municipality, the works, the dialogues, the obituary, the email, the whatchamacall. It forms part of your long transactional writing. And usually in this part of writing, it's important for you to actually be creative. Let's get into all the assessment. The last assessment for the term is a test out of 40. The test is same with home language. It usually covers a bit of comprehension, summary or a cartoon or an advert, and then language conversions and structures. So the first task is 10 marks. The second one is an essay, it's 50, so you have 60 marks. Plus the longer transactional writing, that's 90, plus the test, that's 130. So your total term mark is 130. Same as home language, you add all of whatever you got, divided by 130, then that's the mark you will get for the term. All right. Okay, so creative writing is very important for you to understand what is it that you're going to talk about, and always try to be as original as possible. If you're talking about the best day of your life, please don't tell us it was a sunny day, because that's how most people are likely to start their essay. Come up with something intriguing, something that will shock the assessor or the examiner of your writing, and be like, wow, this is interesting. Throw in idioms, use expressive language accordingly in your writing, not too much that it overwhelms the writing. Just a bit to spice it up, You could add a saying like, as the black sheep of the family. It takes two to tango. Those are such things you could add into your writing that could make it more enhanced. And make sure that you know how to spell certain words properly. If you cannot spell a word, read more books. Read books. They'll expose you onto how to spell certain words. The test, practicing as many past papers as possible, especially grade 12 final exam past papers, will prepare you to do well in that test. It's only 40 marks. We know that when it comes to comprehension, they're usually going to ask you questions based on the information that's provided that you just need to go and pick up. Identify, quote 5 consecutive words that in paragraph 5. They will ask you that. Some, they'll ask you, why do you think? Why is this? So now they want your own personal opinion, and it needs to be well substantiated. There's also going to be a part where they ask you to compare text A and B, where there's usually like a diagram, and then they would ask you questions based on the two of those. The suitability of a title, that is something they could always ask you. Is the title suitable for the comprehension, or is the conclusion suitable to be the conclusion of whatever you just read? No. Why? Because in the story they spoke about this, and in the conclusion they didn't cover all the elements or summarize all the elements that were assessed. Thus, it is not suitable because it only covered this, which might not have been covered in the comprehension. That is how you answer it for 2 marks straight. All right, we are done with that. Let us talk about life orientation and what you're going to be doing. Should we start with life orientation? I think we need to start with accounting. We are back again. We are going to do accounting grade 12. What is it that you guys are going to do in accounting grade 12? The first term has 3 main topics that all fall under the main topic of companies. There is unique transactions, there is final accounts, final statements, and we have analysis and interpretation. And in the exam guideline, well, in the ATP, the annual teaching plan, it says that closed corporations are not going to be assessed. And when you go to the ATP, it tells you what exactly you need to know. Now let's talk about the assessments you're going to be doing here. You're going to have a written report and a task 2 control test. The report is going to be out of 50. Some schools might make it 100 and still convert it to 50. And then you're going to have a control test out of 100. And how do we calculate the term mark? The report is 25%, the test is 75. So if you got 40 out of 50 for the test, you convert that 40 out of 50 multiplied by 25, because remember the report counts 25, then you get your 20 out of 25. And then the exam, the test, you get 80 out of 100. 80 divided by 100 times 75, that's 60. 60 plus 20 is 80, that's a distinction. Capish? Period. The more marks you would get on your report, the less you would need to get in your assessment. But it is very important for you to do better in an assessment that weighs more. So if you had to choose in terms of prioritizing one over another, which we hope you don't get there, focusing on the test is more important, because you could get a level 6 from just writing the test alone. I'm not saying miss the report, but if you had to choose, if you write the report and you miss the test, you cannot even get a level 1, even if you get full marks. But the test counts 75. So you can even get a level 6 without writing the other thing. You get that? Okay. Let us move on to the next subject that you need to focus on. Let's talk about agricultural sciences. Agricultural sciences has a practical and a test. And the practical 25, test 75. But let's talk about the topics. There's animal nutrition, there's digestion, there's components of feeding, digestibility of feeds, the type of feeds, animal production, shelter, housing and protection, animal reproduction, synchronization, as well as transplantation and transfer. These are all the topics that are done in the first term. And you need to know all of these. And it is going to be very important for you to make sure that you revise animal studies that was done in grade 10, but as needed in the topics. Those two activities are going to weigh 25 and 75. Practical is usually 50, and then the test would literally be 100 marks. Same thing with accounting. I feel that most subjects are like that in the first term. Let's get into business studies and what you will cover in the first term. Business studies has 5 topics. There is the impact of recent legislation, human resource functions, professionalism and ethics, creative thinking and problem solving in macro, environment, business, strategies. What assessments do you have, Bestie? Let's talk about that. It seems like there's also 2 assessments in business. Interesting. That is very interesting. What do you guys think? You guys are going to do a case study and a test. It weighs the same as the other subjects we just mentioned, accounting and agricultural sciences. So your case study is going to cover at least 4 topics from those that I mentioned, and your teachers would usually tell you what those are. Let's talk about, should we talk about CAT? CAT has a theory test and a practical test. But now let's see what is it that they add into this assessment. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Is it? No, that's woodwork. We're not going to talk. Is there anyone who does woodwork actually? Curious. CAT, a theoretical test and a practical test, they count 50-50, Bestie. They count 50-50. So they are both as equally important, or they weigh as equally. Get a 45 here, 40 here, it's 85. So let's get those distinctions. Let's go to the next subject. Okay, the next subject has to be geography. I love me geography. Do you guys like geography? I think you're going to enjoy grade 12 geography very much. It is amazing. Okay, let's talk about it. The first topic that you're going to have to do in geography, geography actually has quite a lot of content. So let's really unpack it in greater detail. There is mid-latitude cyclone, there is tropical cyclone, there is subtropical cyclones, and there's valley climates, and I don't think that's all. We're still going down. Remember, geography is a content-heavy subject, right? You're also going to do geomorphology. So there's 2 topics in geography this term. That's why it's quite packed. And remember that geography already has a lot of work. So basically, if you can start now. You're going to do climate and geomorphology, and you're going to have a map work task and a test. In the control test, it's usually 30-30. 30 marks geomorphology, 30 marks climate. Map work, they will add application. And what do I mean by application? Application. Application is where they ask you about geomorphology in the map book. I'm sure you guys have seen that in grade 11. Tell us about the drainage pattern here. You're going to learn about drainage pattern. Don't panic. You are going to learn about them. Tell us, what's this? The precautionary measurements that the community should take if a cyclone is to hit their area. Give us 3 strategies for 6 marks. Yes, you're going to learn about that. And they could ask you to identify what features of this area makes it more prone to getting tropical cyclones more than others. And again, you will learn more about this, and you will remember this video and what we spoke about. So in geography, things are a bit touch and go. Why do I really say that things are touch and go? Because in geography, the weightings tend to be a bit funny. May I care to explain? Wait, let me explain. Let me cook. Let me cook. I don't know if we should actually talk about that now, but let's skip. Let's go to the important thing. We spoke about the 2 assessments you're going to do. So grade 11 map work, you need to master that. There's going to be a bit of additional content for map work, but it's not so much. What subject should we choose next? Life orientation. I love me life orientation. I've been doing life orientation as a tutor for the past 6 years. And if I were to tell you how well my kids do, I know some of them get 100%. I know, I'm joking. They do actually. Topics in term 1, life orientation. I love grade 12 life orientation, and I don't want it to go unheard. I love the content in grade 12 life orientation, even grade 11, but I like grade 12 more. There's going to be stress, assessing stress, conflict resolution, management of stress, relationships, factors affecting communication, adapting to change, study skills, skills for looking for a job, developing a career portfolio, unemployment, and how can you counteract unemployment. And then we're also going to learn about entrepreneurship, and one interesting concept there is an e-business. We're also going to talk about fraud and corruption. That's where we're going to talk about cryonism and embezzlement. You must ask the grade 12s of 2024 why it's important for you to know nepotism and cryonism. Okay, bestie, this term you're going to have one physical education activity and a source-based task. Remember that the source-based task, most schools will ask you to write it in a controlled condition. It will be done independently. It's not to be administered as a class test, but in controlled, that you do not discuss with your friend. Then that task is 90 marks. The physical education is 10. That's 100. So you see which one weighs the most? Exactly. So make sure for the source-based task, you at least get 60%, 60 and above. Then you'll get a very good mark. We are back now. We are done. We just finished life orientation. Let's go to other subjects that you could actually, should we talk about life sciences? Of course. I mean, life sciences only has 4 topics. 4 topics. And let me tell you why. You are going to get a distinction. Because you are a bestie at heart, and you listen to what bestie says. There's DNA, the code of life. There's meiosis. There is reproduction in vertebrates. There's human reproduction. And oh, you guys are in for a good time. Life sciences in grade 12 is where it's at. That is where it's at. 4 topics. There's going to be a practical and a test. Some schools will make the practical 30. Some will really just make it out of 25 because it gets converted to 25. Some will make it 50, but at the end, it gets converted to 25. The test can start to, it can be 50 marks, it can be 75, it can be 100. Most schools will do 75 and the practical 25, so there isn't a lot of conversions, It just becomes easily administratively. Fine, that is what you need to do. You are going to do what is called studying with your exam guideline. Before you even do the topic, DNA, the code of life, go to the exam guideline. What do they want you to know? What is it that they want you to know? The process of transcription, translation, biological terms. They're going to tell you which ones you need to know. You are going to follow through with that. And you are going to get a distinction. Everything that's in the exam guideline, you need to know in order for you to get a distinction. Not so bad, is it? I think you guys are gonna love life sciences. Let us do mathematical literacy. Mathematical literacy has three topics: finance, data handling, and probability. And I love this part of Maths Lit because they also get to do text, and I think everyone needs to know how to do text and understand how it's done. Break-even analysis, do you know what that is? You are gonna find out, or you already know. But it is important that you know those 3 topics. ATP will tell you when they're going to be done, so start with your financial documents, your tax documents, the whatchamacalls. There's going to be an investigation and a control test. Investigation is usually 25%, and then the test 75. Combined, that's 100. Now let us go to mathematics. Let us talk about mathematics. Mathematics has 3 topics. And usually, let's see. You're going to have number patterns and series, functions, and trigonometry from grade 12. You're going to have an investigation, a project, and a test. Is it still done that way where there's actually 2 of them? Or is it just, yes, but usually there's an investigation and an assignment, and then they weigh 25, and then the test weighs 75. So make sure that you ace the assignment and the investigation. Investigation usually would be based on trigonometry because they give it to you based on a topic you haven't been exposed to that much. Then you have to go and investigate. Okay, let's get into the next subject. Okay, let us move on to the next. We spoke about mathematics, and remember that usually in your term 1 test they might include algebra, so it might be wise for you to go back. Number patterns, make sure that you can master term grade 11 content because it's still examinable. Functions, make sure you still master grade 11 functions. Trigonometry, know your basic trigonometric functions and rules from grade 11. Capish. Let us talk about physical science. Oh, physical science, you guys are about to feast. Newton's laws is a topic from grade 11 that you still need to know because it's going to be in your term 1 test. Your term 1 test is going to be both physics and chemistry. Some schools do it separate, but still it's 100 mark. And the practical is 25%, the test is 75. You're going to have momentum and impulse, vertical projectiles, organic chemistry. Oh, you are going to feast when it comes to organic chemistry. It's so easy. Not that you should take advantage of that. You actually should. You should work hard to get 100% in your organic chemistry. And that is it. Oh, but yeah, no, that's it basically. It's literally 2 physics topics and then Newton's from grade 11 and then organic chemistry. That's it. And here as well your examination guideline. Remember that in physical sciences, if your definitions are not from the physical science exam guideline, you are getting an automatic 0. You are getting an automatic 0, and it is important for you to actually make sure that you ace that. All right. Let us talk about religious studies. Who does religious studies in the house? There's going to be a source-based task and a test. You're going to do a variety of religions for a very long time and do your research across all of these. That is the topic you're going to be doing in the entire term. There's going to be a source-based task and a test. But now, bestie, how do they weigh? That one I'll find out for you. But the last subject I'm going to talk about is tourism. Because I love me some tourism. Tourism, you are going to get a test, and that is it. It's usually just one test out of 100 or 75. It's going to have domestic, regional, and international tourism, map work, and tour planning. Those are the only 2 topics they're going to be asking. How to plan an itinerary. If you're asked to plan an itinerary for a group of people who are going to watch the World Cup, plan an itinerary for them. You're also going to do a bit of health, also compiling a budget for that itinerary, and also the global events of international significance. And that could be things like the World Cup, the Wimbledon, and the G8 summit. Those are the ones that you could be asked on. Important for you to know where your exam guideline lies. Okay? Bestie, we have covered all the grade 12 or most of the grade 12 concepts from term 1. If you've looked at that, bestie, you already have yourself a distinction.